What if the growth was not just about climbing ladders, rather, it was about building bridges through which we can lift others? Welcome to Empower Her Voices Global Series Phase 2, Episode 7. I'm your host, Faiza, and today we are accompanied by an amazing guest who has more than 25 years of experience in human resources and leadership, and she is a powerhouse when it comes to culture, talent, capacity building, and leadership. And with over 25 years of experience, she has shaped talent, culture, and coaching across different sectors. And she's the Group HRD Manager at Nemtek and the founder member of Transcend Consulting, where she champions purpose-driven leadership, specifically skill development, which is a really, really crucial part nowadays, and executive coaching. Gizelle, it's an honor to have you with us in this series, and your contribution is really going to matter a lot because human resource is something, and talent and culture and coaching, which has an impact and influence in every walk of the life. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Great, thank you. So, Gizelle, before that, we're going to start. I just wanted to know, and for the audience as well, because our prime audience are actually the women and young girls, that the entire journey that actually led you where you are right now. What was your passion to be a part of this sector where you are, and you're making a lot of impact and influence as well? So, can you just walk us through your professional journey?
Yes, so my journey actually started with youth development. When I was busy with my internship in psychology, I specialized in counseling psychology. And it was then already in my very early 20s that I realized the incredible shortfall for decent advice. Not everybody always has an option to go and see someone who's expensive, or they're not even aware there is something like that. And obviously, I mean, we're all aware that women especially tend to have a little bit less access to some of those kinds of concepts. So that's very much where it started. I built a career in skills development because I believe that it's a faster way to get to more people to help. So instead of doing one-on-one coaching or therapy, which I do, but the fact that if you have a group of 5 or 6 or 10 people in a room, and those 5 or 6 or 10 people will all have an effect on 5 or 6 or 10 more people, means that you have a better reach in terms of it. So I moved into skills development and training. I've always been in the fields of human growth and development. It is where my passion lies. I think we all put on this planet for a reason, and I do believe that my reason is connected to what my strengths and my values are, and that is to help people to grow. Not make them grow, help them grow. There's a difference between.
Great.
And in my later years, human resources has become more of a formalized position. I joke when I say I've retired into full-time employment. So I've always been a consultant,
Okay.
actually. And
Mm-hmm.
now I've been with Nemtek for the last 5 years, totally loving my role, especially because it gives me a bigger platform to do more in terms of the things that are part of what I believe in.
Quite impressive and inspiring journey, I must say. And I couldn't agree more when it comes to skill development that you have said. It's the quickest way actually to get hold of something that can be a part of our existing professional journey, and then it is going to benefit us personally as well. And the best bit about skill development, it is not just going to benefit you in terms of like monetary terms, rather it is going to enhance your intellectual capacity and capability. So that's actually the best part. And I'm sure there are lots and lots of success stories that you might have created and have witnessed throughout your journey. So, Giselle, nowadays, it's about like, our entire podcast is also like about this particular episode, redefining growth and HR. So, growth at times, the youngsters who just stepped into the professional journey, for them, growth is often associated with promotions and the monetary upscaling, but there's a lot more which is actually attached to growth, because growth is something which is for a longer period of time. So, how do you see for you what is the real meaning of growth when we talk about growth in any sector in which the professionals are working?
Mm. You're very right. I think, and I suppose it was the same for most of us,
Mhm.
that when you start in any kind of career, what you think of is
Yeah.
that ladder that needs to go up. So I for years been saying to people that your career and your personal growth is not a ladder, it's a jungle gym. It's meant to be vertical, horizontal, vertical, down, back, sideways. As you
Mhm.
build more strengths and you create energy and enjoyment in different things that you're doing in your life.
True.
And I think you do get to a point where people will realize that yes, Maslow
Mhm.
still has a point. You need to be able to eat. So, but once you're able to eat, if that's all you're able to do based on what you've chosen to do with your life, you will start feeling empty. So growth is much
Yeah.
more than that. It's about self-awareness. It's about being able to build in terms of what it is that makes you someone who feels energized and driven and is created, connected to your compass or your purpose in terms of where
True.
you're going.
True.
And more we're seeing. I mean, the engagement studies. I'm fanatic about engagement. I do believe that we should always be happy going to work. Okay? It shouldn't be because we have to
True.
be. And
Very
one of
well
the
said.
things that comes up again and again is this motivation bias that we have, that if you give someone more money or give them a title, they'll be happy. And the irony is they have a title and they have lots of money and they're still not happy. So there are other things. And we do
Yeah.
have to look at what makes that. And sometimes it's very simple. The fact that I can feel like I can steer my own ship in whatever
Mm.
context that is something that
Yeah.
allows a lot of people to feel a lot more satisfied with where they are. And then I'm a big
Mm.
believer in gratitude. We very quickly start moaning about our salary. We very quickly start moaning about
Yeah.
having to sit in traffic to go to work,
True.
whatever the case may be. The
True.
fact
True.
is that you're moaning about things other people don't have. And being grateful is empirically proven to be the fastest route to feeling happy. So if I'm
Mm.
grateful for something, it makes me feel better about it. And then that leads
True.
to the last component of passing it on. And I suppose that's where coaching comes from, but it's more than that. I think all
Mm.
of us should, in one way or another, be leadership coaches. We should be passing on what it is we've learned, sometimes by the mistakes we've made and preventing someone else from making that mistake. But especially women, we need to get over
True.
the fact that there's some kind of definition of what success means. It isn't, it
True.
doesn't exist. We need to define our own set of success.
Hmm. True, true. And you have, Giselle, highlighted a very, very important point, which I'm sure that, no one can disagree with. Why? About gratitude. So gratitude is actually, it's really, really important because no matter where you are, whatever you have earned or whatever plans do you have, if you're not grateful and if you don't practice gratitude in your daily life for all the things and blessings that you have, then you'll always be unhappy. You'll always be whining about that I don't have this thing or I want more. So this is really important. And the way you have related this jungle jump concept, it's really interesting because you're right. It's always like this, there are horizontals and verticals. So I fully agree with you on this part. And then, coaching, yes, coaching truly plays a very crucial role because at times the professionals are stuck and they're not even aware of their own capabilities
Mm,
until and unless the mentor or the coach is going to step in and they're going to tell them that, hey, you can work on this thing as well. It's just that you need to be more vocal, you need to be more,
yeah.
kind of, you need to practice it. So this is like really important. So, Gazelle, while, going through this 25 years of incredible journey that you have, if we talk about particularly about women around the globe, when it comes to power dynamics, when it comes to self advocacy, women are not being taught the way they should be in most of the regions. And so while you were just going through this journey, like, did you kind of encounter any invisible learning or invisible difficulty pathways, and how did you, like, kind of face them, or how did you overcome them?
So yes, I think perhaps I always like to define that your perception of what is difficult might not be someone else's perception. So it's
True.
very easy to go, someone
Hmm.
who has a certain amount of resources has less difficulty. People have difficulties, it's just their own perception of what it is. Um,
Yes.
for me, I think the important thing is that I've always worked in very male dominant environments. In fact, I prefer those kinds of environments. I enjoy working in them.
Hmm.
But there
Hmm.
is always, unfortunately, that concept of, I've been asked in my
Yeah.
day whether I know what a spanner is. So there is that little bit of uh, let's be nice. So it's misunderstood that women can have abilities
Right.
that are not necessarily something that is common. And that's always been for me one of the things that's the I suppose the most important to work on is that we do have a voice, whether you're a male or a
Hmm.
female, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. We
True.
have a voice, and our
We have
voices
a
need
voice.
to be true to ourselves or authentic in terms of who we are. And it's one of the
Yes.
things
True.
that I find time and time again is that women are either trying to act like men in the workplace,
Hmm.
in other words, either want to be one of the boys or just as strong or arrogant or
Hmm.
whatever words you want to use. All women use
True.
their weak, what I call the weak card. So, oh, I can't do that because I'm a girl. Either way
Hmm.
around, we're not being honest
True.
because we cannot do it. And
Yeah.
just because you're taught certain things doesn't mean that that needs to be your belief system for forever. I'm completely in
Yeah.
agreement. If there's a big box that needs to be carried, I'm going to be very grateful that a man carries it for me because he has bigger muscles
Yeah.
than me and he's bigger and stronger than me. But and that doesn't make me less of a leader or less of a woman,
True.
less of a manager. But I think it is important that we confuse what we think we're supposed to be doing in the workplace with who we are.
Hmm.
And quite frankly,
True.
I have found more very successful women who are authentically women, who are who they are, and who are
Hmm.
then also purposefully happy in their environments than the women who are acting a certain role because they believe that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
So I think if
Yeah.
there's something that women need to take away from my journey or any other woman's journey, is just be yourself. And that does
Yeah.
mean that there will be situations where you will not get ahead if that's what you want. It's true, it's a reality. We need to be real about it. But I often say if you were pushing for a particular role and you had to act your way through to get to that role, that means you need to continue to act in that role.
Hmm.
That
True.
doesn't sound great.
Yeah. True. True. And the point that you just said, we also need to make sure while, I agree that, while talking about the empowerment or the awareness for women, we need to ensure that there's a very thin line when it comes to women empowerment in creating gender disparity that we're not supposed to. Because when we're out there in the professional world, we both need to work together to create
Yes.
that harmony and to create that, the aspect or the angle of gender equality. So I agree with you, rather than having this equality, but it's more about respecting each other's boundary and helping each other grow. So that's
That's,
like the beauty of this opposite gender when we are working together. So that's like
that's right.
very well said, very well said. So Gizelle, like the profession that you are into is like human resources, dealing with the most complex being, humans, which I guess differ even if they are being raised under one roof by same mother. The siblings are always different in their nature. So when it comes to organizations, I'm sure there's a lot diversity, the angle of diversity, and that's the reason I guess nowadays in education sector, diversity is a very important subject, especially for the IGCSEs and for the O levels. So, what is that? I'm sure it's not just one thing, but what do you feel that if we need to unlearn the traditional mode of, being used for leadership or being training ourselves with that? What is that thing that we need to unlearn so that we can move towards the evolution in which we are? Because nowadays, after every single day, the things have been changing. And then at the end of the day, again, we are dealing with humans. So, being a woman, being a young girl who's just stepping into a professional journey, or the one who is about to, take on a leadership role, So, what that one bit or any single concept that she needs to learn?
So I'm actually glad you raised diversity because I think that's probably for me sometimes the crux. So you need to learn that different is not wrong. So,
Mm,
when we talk about equality, I sometimes think we're using the wrong word. Equity is a much better word to use. I mean, if you and I are
exactly.
both quite short and there's somebody who's tall and we're trying to look over a wall, the idea is we all want to look over the wall, but some of us might
Yeah.
need a step ladder and others not. That's equity, that we can all look over the wall.
Yes.
How we get to look over the
Mm,
wall is a little different for each one of us. And that makes us all
true.
different. And I love to celebrate difference. I think diversity is
Mm,
the spice of life, quite frankly.
it's
Um, you
beautiful.
know,
Yeah.
I live in South Africa. We are extremely diverse, and
Right.
harnessing diversity is power. If we
Yeah.
all were good at the same thing, if we all thought the same thing, if we could all do the same thing, quite honestly, as a company, as a country, as a family, we wouldn't get anywhere. You're so right. Three people grow up in
True.
the same home with the same parents, but they're all
Yeah.
enormously
True.
diverse. And that's, I
Mm,
think, something that we should, instead of fighting it or feeling like we have to
mm,
manage it, we should actually be harnessing it, use it. Different
mm,
is
yeah.
not wrong. Different is part of our strength. And I think that's the thing
Mm,
that when you go into your workplace and you are starting your career, that's what you need to be looking at is what is it that makes you different? Because your
yeah.
differences will ultimately be the strength of a team that doesn't have that.
Exactly. It's like different blocks in a building, and when they're put together, so it's like the strength and the weakness, they're going to complement each other
Exactly.
and will come up as a team as a crucial component. So that's true. And you've just mentioned about the concept of equity. And yes, you're right. It's like, I guess often it's being misunderstood or misinterpreted when we talk about equality, because you're right, if you talk about equality, then what kind of equality? Is it like the physical attributes or the intellectual attributes? Then no one can be, because everyone differs. Even if one person is having masters, the other one graduation. If one person is good in speaking, other might be good in writing. So yes, rather than that, it's far more appropriate to use the term equity and then start navigating this concept starting from top to bottom in any structure that we have. So, taking it further, Gazelle, when we talk about the women who are there in the professional sector, at times they're being hit by glass ceiling, right? That, oh my God, so this is a block where I am, and I'm sure it's a kind of moment that all of us have in our life. Or at times we are, if we're kind of proceeding towards a decision, at times if we have to make a choice, so there are moments. So what do you think that, at that certain point when when even we are short of time, like we were not being given enough time, that okay, fine, these are the decisions, just take a day or so and then come up with a thing. So what is that woman expected, not expected of, what is that woman supposed to do, or the girl who is there in the profession, when she's actually hit the glass ceiling? Because that's a very frustrating moment for, I guess, most of them or a couple of them.
Yes, and unfortunately, I don't see that going away anytime soon. Um, I think
Mm,
the important thing is that sometimes you need to
mm,
question whether that's a glass ceiling you do want to break through. So sometimes I think we
mm,
want to break through it simply just because it's there. I know it's sort of my nature. If you're telling me that I can't do something, I'm going to go
yeah,
and do it. But
true,
it's not
true.
necessarily ultimately what I wanted. Okay? So I think that's the
Mm,
first thing is to be honest with yourself. Is that really the glass ceiling you want to break? If you do
yeah.
decide this is the ceiling I do want to break, then you need to build resources, build allies, build skills sometimes. And sometimes you need to do a horizontal glass break. In other words, sometimes
Mm,
the company that you are working in is ultimately never going to give you that opportunity.
true,
And to then
true.
be realistic about it and to understand that it might mean that one door is closing and another six are opening. So it's idealistic to say, oh, just carry on and be strong and you'll be fine. I mean, we live in a real world and it doesn't always work like that. So I think the
Mm,
important thing is that think of it strategically. Don't be oh, okay, so this is now my lot. Don't do that. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself.
mm,
Find another way to do it. Women are, and now I'm biased, but I am a woman, so I'm allowed to be biased, but women are incredibly strong. And we are
mm.
multifaceted in so many ways that
True.
we sometimes maybe don't understand how exceptional
Mm,
those skills are. I mean, if you have
yeah.
children, a husband, a job, maybe a hobby, you're studying something, your time is something that you can manage like an
Yes.
astronaut can manage a spaceship. Okay, we are exceptional
Mm,
at realizing that
yeah.
we are. And I think that
True.
sometimes maybe because the world doesn't necessarily see those as exceptional skills, and then whose fault is
Mm,
that? There are more women than men in the world. We should be making them
yeah.
realize that those are the kinds of skills that
Yeah.
are, and then to
True.
go, right, so what is it that I am strong in? Where are my strengths? Am I good at networking? Am I good at, maybe my skill is exceptional, whatever it is. Be realistic
Mm,
about where you may have gaps that you need to work on, and be careful for not making it the easy answer. If you're not getting that
yeah.
position that you wanted, and this sounds hard, but it's important to hear, make sure it's not
Mm,
because you're not right for the job.
mm.
Maybe you're not right
True.
for it. If you are
True.
100% sure this is a ceiling you want to break, you are right for the job, you have the skills, then don't give up.
Mm. Yes, and I guess if we'll start from asking a question from ourselves that either we're supposed to hit the ceiling or not, then I guess there we are making a very crucial decision, which is going to be beneficial for us. Either we are going to take it on or we're going to let it go. So that
Mm.
is, I guess, that is going to be a turning point if the woman is going to ponder in a way that she not needs to be biased, she needs to be emotionally anchored and purpose driven. Only then she'll be able to make a very good decision for herself. And then, as you've already said, that if that ceiling is exactly the ceiling you need to hit, then yes, you should not give up. You should just continue with that thing. And Giselle, now, as we were just talking about future readiness, and if we talk about the world that we are living right now, it's shaped by uncertainty and this
Mm.
burnout, automation, and whatnot. So, the skills, yes, they're a part of one's life, may be regarding their own particular profession. But what is that mindset that we need to have? Because this constant and continuous evolution is something which is at times a factor for burnout if we are not managing it rightly, if we're not moving with the pace. So before that, we wrap up with this amazing episode in which we have shared practical insights for the woman out there. So what should a woman do to actually stay anchored with the purpose that she has made before any sector? So how is she supposed to deal with that?
I think you actually nailed it. Continuous learning is part of it. I've
Yeah.
always had a problem with anyone calling themselves a specialist. We can specialize, but if you're saying you're a
Mm.
specialist, it means you're finished, and we can never be finished. So it
Yeah, we
is so
can never be finished.
important that we continuously learn. And for that reason, I suppose back to my original point that you need to feel that you have purpose in what you're doing. Because if you don't,
Mm.
you're not going to want to learn more about it. You're not going to want to
True.
change and evolve and grow. And growth is very difficult as it is. But if it's growth for something somebody else wanted you to do, it is enormously difficult. So
True.
burnout happens for one of two reasons. One is that
Mm.
we are ultimately just overwhelmed with everything that's going on, and it means that you do not have
Mm.
boundaries set up that you should have.
True.
The other reason is that you might be growing in a direction that you're not supposed to be going in. And choosing to grow in a
Mm.
field where you're not supposed to be can be just as exhausting as having too much on your plate. So, again, it
So
boils
true.
down to self knowledge, being self reflective, and understanding then that who you ultimately are is going to be enough, or will be more than enough, quite frankly. And if anyone in your life is
Mhm.
telling you different, then they are wrong, and it's a them problem, not a you problem.
Yeah, true. Great, great. Gizelle, thank you so much for your time and especially the way you have wrap up by telling the advice that is there for the woman that burnout is not just because it's a fatigue or you're overworked. It's truly because you're not at the right place, you're not doing the right stuff, or it was not meant for you. And earlier you have said that either you're so overwhelmed by the stuff around you that you're unable to actually manage it the way it should be. So I totally agree with you, and we can truly see the wisdom that you have and the 25 years, this is a nutshell of what we have just tried to learn so far from your side. And I'm sure the women out there who are actually navigating the different challenges or opportunities or, growth. So, the conversation and the insight that Gazelle has shared, if you can go through it and you're going to actually relate it with the daily happenings or the decision making pain points where you are actually, hitting the ceiling or you're struggling with any advancements. So if you're going to break it down, just ask a question as she has said that either is it the right place for you? Is it the right profession? And if yes, just don't give up. And these problems and these challenges are part of the game. And as she said that, if there was no difference being there in the world, then I guess there was no charm then, Giselle. Then everyone is same. Everyone is the best. So the definition, yes, as you said, that for difficulty or for goodness is different for every single individual in this global village where we are living. So thank you, Gizelle. Your contribution matters a lot because this podcast is going to reach the rural areas of Pakistan, where women are quite, they're really intelligent, they have the capacity and tendency, only that they want the right opportunities, they want to be connected with the global leaders like yourself. And I'm sure there's a lot of learning that they can get from this episode. And for the audience, thank you so much for your time and see you again with another powerful insight. And as we're catering with different sectors, so you're more than welcome to join in. Thank you so much for your time. See you again.